The first memory was not a sight, but a sound that began as a whisper, a distant tear in the fabric of the world, and swelled into a scream that scraped the sky raw. Elias Thorne heard it coming, a freight train of pure malice aimed directly at his fragment of earth. There was no time for prayer, only for the body to become a stone, for the soul to shrink into a tiny, hard seed deep in the belly. Then the world ended in a cataract of fire and dirt. When the thunder relented, Elias uncurled. His ears rang a high silver bell of nothingness. Dirt pattered down around him like black rain. He was alive. This, in the heart of the Hürtgen Forest, in November of 1944, was a temporary and often disappointing condition. Sergeant Elias Thorne, a man of 20 years who felt 90, pushed himself up, spitting mud and something darker. He was a sculptor from Rhode Island, a man who used to know the feel of cool, yielding clay. Now his hands knew only the cold, unyielding steel of an M1 Garand. The forest around him was a phantasmagoria of destruction. It wasn't just that trees were broken, they were mutilated. Giant firs stood as naked, splintered toothpicks against a leaden sky. The ground was a churned morass of mud, shell craters, and the unspoken things that lay half buried within it. The air was a potent cocktail of smells, the sweet rot of decaying wood, the acrid tang of cordite, the faint, coppery hint of blood, and beneath it all, the cold, wet scent of eternal damp. This was not a landscape. It was a wound on the planet itself. "Sarge, you intact?" The voice was raspy, belonging to PFC Charlie Chip Morrow, a kid from Chicago who'd once boasted he knew every alleyway in the city. Now his face was a mask of grime, his eyes two bright, anxious points of light in the gloom. He crawled over, his movements jerky. "I'm here, Chip," Elias said, his own voice a stranger's, gravelly and worn. He did a quick head count. Miller, the lanky farm boy from Iowa, was checking his ammunition with methodical precision. Doc Ryder, the medic with the eyes of an old man, was already moving towards where Jenkins, the new replacement, was clutching his arm, a shard of wood embedded in his flesh. Jenkins was trying not to cry, his breath hitching in ragged sobs. He was 18. He still had the soft face of a boy. "We have to move," Elias said, the order tasting like ash. That barrage was the opening act. Their machine guns will be zeroing in now. Their objective was a joke. Take Hill 400, a bump on the map, a worthless piece of high ground that was currently costing 1,000 lives per acre. The intelligence suggested a light German presence. Intelligence was a liar. They moved in a low, crouching run, from shattered stump to shell crater, their progress a staccato dance of survival. The forest watched them with a malevolent silence. It was Miller who saw it first. He froze, his hand going up in a clenched fist. He pointed through a skeletal thicket of birch trees. There, partially concealed by a fallen log, was a German MG-42 nest. The gun, nicknamed Hitler's buzzsaw for its terrifying rate of fire, was positioned to enfilade the entire approach to the hill. Elias could see two helmeted figures, their movements efficient, professional. They hadn't seen the American squad yet. Elias's mind, the part that was still a sculptor, assessed the scene. The lines, The angles, the negative space. It was a bad position. A direct assault was suicide. The creek bed to the right, though flooded and exposed, was the only option. Flanking maneuver, Elias whispered. Miller, you're with me. Chip, lay down suppressing fire on my mark. 3-round bursts. Make them keep their heads down. Chip nodded, swallowing hard. He nestled his rifle into the crook of a tree root, his jaw set. Elias caught Miller's eye. The Iowan's face was pale, but he gave a tight nod. The world narrowed to the 10 yards of open ground between their cover and the creek. Elias took a breath, the air cold and sharp in his lungs. Now, Chip's rifle barked. 3 sharp, precise reports. Chips of wood and dirt flew from the log near the German position. In that heartbeat of distraction, Elias and Miller broke cover, sprinting low and fast. Mud splashed. Hearts hammered against ribs. They were halfway there when the world dissolved once more. This time, it was not a shell, but a different, more horrifying sound. A whooshing, incendiary bloom. An American mortar team had launched a phosphorus round. It was meant for the German position, but its arc was tragically high. It sailed over the nest and detonated in the trees directly above Elias and Miller. The effect was biblical. A sun bloomed in the canopy, a blinding white-hot eye. Then it began to rain fire. Globules of sticky, burning phosphorus fell like malevolent snow. They sizzled as they hit the wet ground. They hissed as they struck the trees. And they screamed when they struck living flesh. Miller took a direct hit on his shoulder. The sound he made was not human. It was a high, thin shriek of pure agony. The phosphorus burned through his field jacket, through his skin, down to the bone, the white smoke carrying a sweet, sickening smell. Miller thrashed, a living torch in the gloom of the forest. "Don't touch it!" Elias yelled, his voice cracking. But it was too late. Miller, in his blind animal pain, stumbled out of the creek bed and into the open. The German machine gun, which had paused, roared back to life. The buzzsaw ripped through the air, and a line of rounds stitched across Miller's chest, throwing him back like a discarded rag doll. He landed in a heap, the phosphorus still burning on his shoulder, a grotesque, smoldering candle. Elias was frozen. He had pressed himself into the muddy bank of the creek, the cold water seeping into his boots. He watched, helpless, as the life of the boy from Iowa was extinguished in the most horrifying way imaginable. The fury that rose in him was a cold, clear, and focused thing. It was not the hot, blind rage of battle. It was the rage of an artist seeing a perfect piece of marble shattered by a vandal. Chip's suppressing fire had stopped. Elias risked a glance back. Chip was staring, his mouth agape, his rifle forgotten. In the silence that followed the machine gun's burst, a new sound emerged. A soft, guttural weeping. It was Jenkins, the boy with the splinter in his arm. The sight of Miller's death had broken him. Elias looked from Miller's smoldering body to the machine gun nest, then back to his broken squad. The artistic part of his mind, the part that understood composition and consequence, saw the only move left. It was a terrible, brutal move. He scrambled back to Chip, his eyes hard. The phosphorus, it gave us a screen. Their visibility is low. I'm going up the middle. "Sarge, that's suicide!" Chip hissed, his eyes wide with terror. "It's the only play," Elias said, his voice eerily calm. He grabbed 2 grenades from his webbing. "When I'm halfway, you throw a grenade, not at them, at the trees, right above their position. Shake them up, make them look up." Before Chip could argue, Elias was moving. He didn't run in a crouch. He stood up and walked, then broke into a sprint, straight up the gut towards the nest. It was the last thing they would expect. He was a man willingly walking into the path of a buzzsaw. He heard Chip's grenade go off, a dull thump followed by the sound of splintering wood. He saw the German gunners flinch, looking up momentarily at the new threat from above. It was the second he needed. He was 20 yards away. He pulled the pin on his first grenade, let the spoon fly, and threw it in a high, lazy arc. It wasn't meant to land in the nest. It was meant to land directly in front of it. It exploded, sending a curtain of earth and debris into the air. The gunner, momentarily blinded, swung his weapon wildly, firing bursts into the smoke. Elias kept running. 10 yards. He could see the gunner's face now. Young, terrified, his mouth open in a shout. Elias pulled the pin on his second grenade. He didn't throw it. He held it. 1,000. 1,000. He dove forward, sliding the last few feet on the mud and rotting leaves, coming to a stop just below the lip of the log emplacement. The German gunner, seeing him, tried to depress the barrel of the MG-42. It was too late. Elias lobbed the grenade, underhand, like a man tossing a newspaper onto a porch. It cleared the log and dropped neatly into the heart of the nest. There was a shout, cut short by the concussive crump of the explosion from inside the confined space. The machine gun fell silent. The sudden quiet was louder than the battle. Elias lay in the mud, his chest heaving, the cold finally seeping into his bones. The rage was gone, replaced by a vast, hollow emptiness. He had done it. He had avenged Miller. He had saved what was left of his squad. But as he stared at the smoke curling from the machine gun nest, he knew the truth. The sculpture was complete, but it was a monstrosity, and a part of his own soul lay shattered within it, right beside the body of the boy from Iowa. The war had taken another piece of the man from Rhode Island, and in return had given him only the cold, heavy weight of command